Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Deputy. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's interesting how everything kind of ends up playing out in this episode, because it's simply, Charlie and Joseph, stopping someone who blew past the stop sign, but then immediately Joseph noticed it's like, oh, the dude put a bag in the back seat. They end up running, stopping him and everything. And then Joseph's asking the question, why'd you put that in the back seat? He's like, oh, he's like, what? He's like, why'd you put that bag in the back seat? He's like, so it wouldn't be in the front seat. Why would that be a problem? Just so you wouldn't think it was something bad. And it's like, the way he's talking and stuff, I'm like, legit, you almost get that vibe like, Connor, you sound like the type of dude that would pull a gun out like in this instant. But like the fact of the matter is the ID came back fake, but apparently it's a really good one. So it's like, okay. So he's like, oh man, come on. And he ends up taking off. Luckily, Joseph catches up to him and he gets arrested. Inside the bag is some drugs and then a whole bunch of money. And he's just like, oh, that's not mine. I mean, it could be, it doesn't have to be mine. It could be someone else that's kind of insinuating, oh, bribing them. But, and they arrest him. But then, like, when they're taking him in for booking and all that, like, Joseph's just looking because the home dude is super calm. And even I catch on it. And Joseph's like, he's like, man, something just don't feel right about it. Because they don't really have anything they can really hold him on other. Because the fake ID is super legit. They have to wait for it to come back, like, who he actually is and all that stuff. And so I was curious to see what that storyline was going to end up. I was like, because I wouldn't have expected things to kind of turn into what it did. But we ended up finding out his name's Kaito because Joseph got, Bishop to run Kaito's prints and stuff like that, run his face and stuff like that. And Bishop's contacts came back to say, like, Kaito has connections to criminal organizations both here in the U.S. and back home and in Japan. And the fact of the matter is that he's basically here trying to make a deal with the cartel. He's trying to take over like the cocaine business, and that's what this whole situation's about. But then it's kind of like they also noticed that all of a sudden there were like all these random shootings around in a sense of like no one actually got hurt, but there have been drive-bys but no casualties. And they're like, there were 3, then there was 4. It's like, what's this all about? But then they kind of piece it together of like, it's all around the same time Kaito got locked up, so they start piecing it together. And Carter brings a dude in, and he's like, oh, he planted drugs on me. There's a part of my brain that was like, did Carter actually do that? No, that's not the case, but we'll get to that soon enough. But the fact is, I made that was even crossing my mind. Maybe go like, I should probably, that kind of speaks a lot of volumes that I even thought that Carter would be possible of that. But the fact of the matter is, Honda gets put in a cell with Kaito, and Kaito's like, I was waiting long enough. I was like, okay, so it's a jail bus because apparently, like in a compartment of his jacket, he actually had a gun. This whole setup of like holding like Carter hostage while they, make an escape and everything. So things kind of go off. It's like while they're making their escape, it turns into a shootout because backup shows up blasting, Cade and Bill, along with Bishop show up in covering fire. Joseph kind of out there in the front lines making sure to block Carter and everything. But most of them get dealt with. Kaito and one of the other dudes gets away, switches cars. But luckily, Cade and Bishop, Cade and Bill end up catching up to him. And it was a situation of like, get on the floor, get to the ground, and he wouldn't. He just kind of stepped forward. I was like, at first I was kind of thinking, probably, there's a chopper above. I mean, granted, it's a police chopper, but part of me is like, oh, it's probably not going to look good. I was like, he's probably going to like force Bishop. He's going for I keep saying Bishop, about to force Bill to shoot him or something. But it's like, no, he surrenders because I guess he's still someone that was kind of like, I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's like, at least while you're alive, you can still do something. Can't do anything if you're dead. So maybe that's kind of what he was thinking about. So I was like, that was just one smart thing you've done all day, son of a bitch. I just liked it. Bill just added the son of a bitch. What's interesting though is, and when they kind of break it down, that he was literally on his way to meet up with the cartel people to kind of make this dealing. And it's like he was 5 minutes away, which is kind of crazy to think about, like him not following one traffic rule. Once again, it's an example I've used recently in some other regard, but the fact of the matter is that what was it that brought down Al Capone? Freaking tax evasion. So it's like interesting that the simplest thing, like not following a traffic rule, was enough to undo everything him and the cartel were up to, So I think that whole situation is so fascinating, But the fact of the matter is, luckily for this, it also spanned with taking down all of Kaido's people and stuff like that. So a lot of bad people got taken off the board. They stopped the shipment and everything. So it was a really good, day. Obviously, there's like a lot of other storylines kind of going on at the same time. Let's start off with Cade's situation. You have Cade and Teresa dealing with the fact is that it seems that Camilla and Roberto's grandmother is looking for custody, and you can't because that's why I was just waiting for the ball to drop, because the moment they were like, because obviously I figured that was the concern, but they were just like, oh, maybe it's like a one-off thing, but it's like, oh, she said that we're going to see her more often, and I kind of threw that out there last episode that was their concern, and the fact of the matter is she said that kind of, but the fact is that she's looking for custody. Why can't it? I mean, because I guess at the end of the day, it's like no matter what good you're doing, you're not the actual family. I'm their family, but that's the complicated thing for Cade. I think for Cade, someone who is all about like growing him in a foster system, because we don't know the full extent of his family history. Maybe that's what makes him kind of lash out, because it's like their grandmother didn't even come to their father's funeral. Must mean that because their mother must have died a while back. So it's like in a situation, I think that's what it was kind of insinuating. Like the fact of the matter is, you didn't come get your grandchildren, considering what they were dealing with living with their father. You didn't show up to the funeral to come. Like, you waited all this time. Now that we have adopted them, they've become accustomed to living with us, and now you're looking to brace them. A woman who doesn't know them, because they were super young at the time, so they don't really remember you. You weren't really that active in their life. Hell, apparently you kind of weren't on the best of terms with their mom, so it's kind of like, because for Katie, sees like, what's the angle you're going for in this situation, which is like, maybe she has an angle, maybe she doesn't, but it does look a little suspicious, because the fact is, like, why after all this time do you come up now? So maybe it's because maybe she didn't care until she was like, oh, maybe I can reap some benefits of this. I don't know. And like I said, Kate's coming from this, and Teresa is a lawyer and everything, so the lady there, I guess the social worker that's working with them is like, basically build up the best defense you can. Because even Teresa was like, you told us that like in these situations the biological family had more often than not in court will win. So it's because at the end of the day, it's like it is kind of sad that at the end of the day, like in some cases like that where it's like the biological kind of outweighs, it's like, even though we're not blood, we're still, I guess almost in their minds is like, we've literally been, these children have been ours longer than they've been her grandchildren, because she hasn't been around them that long, So it's a complicated situation, and I'm curious to see what happens, because Teresa had left a voicemail for Cade, but he didn't hear it, because he was like, yeah, there's too many like catastrophes at one time, want to deal with one at a time. But it's like Bill was like, you're in the wrong line of work if that's going to stop you, like too many catastrophes going on at one time. It's like, keep the faith, kind of, keep a positive attitude and listen, see what's happening, So I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that. Another angle to this episode is a big thing, and that is the fact is that you have Riley going after Bill super hard. To be fair, Bill leaked all that stuff about her wanting to cut Johnson a deal and stuff like that, which now Riley was already pissed off at Bill. She's now super pissed at him. She was kind of, going for a gut punch. She's straight going for the jugular now. Because the fact of the matter is, it's kind of like, you started this. He basically rung that bell the moment he leaked that to that reporter. And so it's like, you can't go back now. So Bill's got to suffer the ramifications of her basically opening up every case and stuff like that, especially the Johnson case. She's going to glue her eyes to it. So she starts bringing people in. First and foremost, Bishop. It's like, Bishop, the moment the sheriff decided to kind of get into this investigation, because it's like, oh, Bishop, I want to talk to you and stuff like that. Bishop's like, hey, nice to meet you too. Didn't even introduce you. All right, let's see how this is. And Bishop is just, I love cool, calm, collected, Bishop just kind of like, And I love that whole situation of like, yeah, you're the one that warned a detective about taking over the LAPD's like case or whatever. And Bishop is like, the fact is, I've been going through a lot, some changes in the job, my girlfriend broke up. I can't remember what you're talking about. Like, yo, because of course Bishop's going to have, Bill's back. But I'm curious, is it also because, once again, we don't know the full extent. Bill knows, but we never found out what it is that was the situation that led Bishop leaving their previous job, So I'm curious about that, especially because, Well, at first, because, Riley's trying to spin it to be like, oh, the fact of the matter is, taking it off record, not even recording it anymore, but basically saying that she's going to dig up every little secret and stuff. Bishop's still caught that smile and everything, like everything's good, but the moment Bishop walks away, they have like a bit of a... I'm assuming because Bishop's worried that like some of their like history is going to come back and kind of bite them in the ass type of situation, in the sense of what Bill found out about Bishop. Maybe that's what Bishop's worried that Riley's going to uncover. I mean, we already know there's some random dirt that Charlie ended up unearthing for Jerry to use. Now, because Jerry already last episode was like, you and Riley, why don't you and I work together to take him down? And it's like, well, Carol wasn't all about that, so she was like, no, I'll kind of do it myself, because you're easy to take down, he'll be a different situation. So it's like, just to prove his own, just to kind of work things better in his own fashion, because we see how intent he is about getting his job. The fact of the matter is he might work with Riley long enough to take Bill down and then try and take her down. That's what I'm assuming, but we'll have to see, especially because things didn't work out the way Carol was kind of hoping they would. After talking to Bishop, she talks to Cade and is asking about the shootings that he's been involved in since working under Bill. And it's like, oh, don't keep count. Doesn't seem right. And it's like, oh, I got this call. I should probably leave. And she's like, and it's like, I'll tell Bill you said hi and everything. So that didn't go well. And then, because Bill had came to Joseph and told him ahead of time about what Riley was up to. And Riley talks to Joseph, and it turns into this whole back and forth that I think is kind of interesting, because it's like, it's like, oh yeah, because she wants to spin it to make it seem like, oh, Joseph doing all this was personal, because like, oh, those police officers made you feel less than because they pointed their guns at you. They respect the fact that you were an officer. Just because you were a black man, they pointed the gun at you. And he was like, how did that make you feel? And he was like, would it make you feel? And she's like, well, because at the end of the day, because she tried to spin it, because he was like, oh, so you admit that, the police department has a race problem. And she's like, no, I'm admitting the county has a race problem. So she's trying to spin it like that and everything. And the fact of the matter is, and it's like, and then he was like, well, at the end of the day, if you believe trying to root out evil and all that stuff, why are you offering Johnson a plea deal? And for her, it's like, because he's naming names and other cases I have on my desk. I just think it's interesting that you're bringing that up now, because at no point, may I point out, no point did she bring this up to Bill. If you were saying that, if it's like at the end of the day, we're cutting Johnson loose, we're cutting a deal with him because he's naming names in other cases, I think that's her covering her ass. Or maybe she's bold-faced lying, but I feel like she's got to be covered, because at no point, because I feel like Bill would be a little more understandable, but she made it seem like an optics thing of like, well, we can't, if we're taking down the cops, like what that'd be, we'll just hush, make him disappear type of thing. It's like, no, like, so obviously she's BSing? I have no idea. Once again, it's just so interesting because, like I said, literally the last role we saw her in, spoiler alert for Midnight Texas, she ended up playing a villain. So it's just interesting that they kind of put her back into kind of a villainous role, I think. That's just kind of what's in my mind, because I referenced it last episode when I was like, hey, Jamie Ray Newman. But nevertheless, the whole situation is just interesting, and it's just kind of like, but it's like, cutting the deal because, Joseph was like, oh, what is he giving you? The white vote? And obviously she didn't really have too much of a retort to that. So it's a situation of like, you want to make it seem like Bill, because she's like, the fact of the matter is, I want people like, I have nothing against you. You going after Johnson like you did the right thing. But Bill taking all the resources he had of the department and going after this was for a personal vendetta and stuff like that, for personal reasons and stuff like that. But Joseph is like, no, Bill believed in what one of his detectives was saying, and he supported that detective and looked into the investigation. I think we're missing past the point of like, excuse me, Johnson ended up being super guilty. So it's like, why? she's getting caught up in the semantics of it. It's just kind of like, it's just so interesting because I think it is a little bit of a power tripping thing. I think she's super pissed because Bill won't like bow down to what, I mean, to be fair, who's to say she hasn't been, because it almost seems like she's only gunning for this position because of Bill, but I think Bill kind of represents something she hates about the system. She's like, it is this like, Bill represents that systematic way of things have kind of been, and she's like, it's time for new blood to step in that kind of completely revamp everything, so it turns into kind of that gnarly situation of like, okay, so at the end of the day though, Joseph still had, Bill's back and was like, excuse me, I got some paperwork to do. So while that whole situation happened, which I didn't talk about it, but I love the whole Charlie and Joseph situation because they're outside at the end of everything looking under the bullet casing. She's like, and Charlie's like, all right, like the fact of the matter is, don't think I'm gonna get all up in my feels and everything, but I'm really proud of you, Boots, for coming through today and everything. And he was like, I forgot what it was he was saying. It was like, oh, are you trying to speed up my training so that you could go ahead and get your promotion? She's like, see, that's exactly why I don't compliment you, because you start feeling yourself too much. And he's like, oh, is that what's happening here? And she's like, all right, that's why you're going to do all the paperwork and stuff. He's like, no, you mean we, right? And she's like, nah, like, I'll check your work tomorrow. And he is like, oh, she's serious about this. But at the end of the day, he thanks her, because it's like he realizes she pushes him so hard because she believes in him. So I think that was kind of a neat element to that. But another avenue, it's the whole thing with Joseph doing the paperwork. Carter comes up and he's like, no, give this to this other person. Come hang with us. He's like, no. It's like, if you think like that, you're just going to be, a newbie all the way. But he's like, I wanted to say thank you for what you did. And then he starts going a little Punisher-ish. Which is, once again, interesting that I would make reference to the Punisher, considering the fact is Jamie Ray Newman was in season 1 of Punisher. The fact of the matter, he's talking about all these scumbags. It's like, it's like I shouldn't even try to break them up. I should have tased them. I'm like, I'm not sure you would have legally been in a right to do that, but it just, I feel like that's probably like a last minute resort, probably not like something kind of jumped to me. Once again, I'm not an officer. I don't know like the rules to that. Maybe he would have just been 100% okay, just take. But then immediately his line is like, the fact of the matter is, because like we need to get payback on him. And Joseph's like, well, most of his crew is dead. Him and the suppliers and everything are going away for a long time. It's like, no, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the next scumbag we come across. I'm like, okay, here we go. Because from the very beginning, Charlie kept being like, stay the hell away from that Carter dude. He's not a good dude and everything. You could already immediately see like, oh, he's kind of one of those, I don't know, he seemed a little frat boyish. And I was like, that doesn't seem like the best person to be a cop. That frat boy mentality it seems like he kind of has. But then like, now we got this mentality of just kind of like, I'm seeking justice. Almost like the fact of the matter, he didn't quite say it, but you can almost see him reaching the lane of like, why are we arresting these people? We might as well, these bad people, might as well put these scumbags down. Hence why I said very Punisher-like. Saying that the fact of the matter is some people see the way the world is, others don't. And he's saying that Joseph can actually see the way the world is, kind of like that us locking these scumbags up just for them to get out. Like, there's other, we're just locking one scumbag out just for there to be others out there and for them to cut deals and stuff. Like, so that's what he's kind of insinuating. And it kind of gets Joseph to kind of leave him. Part of me is like, oh, stay, Joseph, stay. I know you don't want to do the work, but do the work and stay. Do the paperwork. Oh, you left him. I was like, yeah, that's going to go sideways in some shape or form. I don't know. Maybe because the paperwork didn't get filed, it ends up screwing up something related to this Kaito thing. I don't know. But like I said, I brought up earlier, like the fact is I thought like maybe Carter did plant those drugs on the home dude. So it turns out not to be the case, but you still kind of makes you maybe a little nervous about him from the beginning. Like I've been nervous about him for a while. But now I'm like, okay, so probably that group, like the group of people that have that same like lion tattoo, whatever. It's like, that's probably what that's about. People are just same-minded about like the justice system of like their form of justice, and sadly Joseph's going to get wrapped up in all of that, which obviously that's not going to look too good on Bill, especially if Bill's planning on running, which that's a whole avenue to this episode as well, because of the whole situation, with Riley and everything. Like he was even talking to his dad about like, oh, there's something going through your mind and everything, and his dad's like, the fact of the matter is you want to run for sheriff and everything. Admit it, that's what this all really comes down to, because it's like, well, you don't want some paper pusher like Jerry in position, and you don't want an ambulance chaser like this Riley going after the job either. Admit it, you want it, and he admits it. That's what he's struggling with, because there is a part of him. He's probably known for a while. It's not just like I'm thinking about it. It's like there's a part of him that's probably known for a while. No, I want this job. Because I can do a good job at it. I want it. He's been like so flip-floppy on it, like, oh, maybe I will, maybe. But it's like, no, you definitely want the job. And the fact is, but for him, it's like he doesn't know what it's going to do affecting Paula, Maggie, and even Joseph. But at the end of the day, it's like his dad's like, you're going to piss someone off regardless of what you do. Why not make it count? If you're going to piss people off, why not make all that someone getting pissed at you count? You being sheriff and everything, changing things for the better, doing good work, you know? And at the end of the day, you know, obviously we continue seeing elements of his dad being a little, you know, forgetful, because it's like, you know, it's like, oh, don't worry, your mom knows I'm here. It's like, you do know mom passed away 3 years ago, right, Dad? And it was kind of, so I think it kind of slipped back into right. I'm kind of, you know, forgetting things and all that, you know? So, but he also sees, like, you know, Riley on the TV, you know, kind of upsets him because, like, Riley's talking mad shit about his son and everything, about, like, oh, like, the blah, 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 like, trying to say, like, the whole Johnson thing. She's kind of being like, well, I'm not here to, you know, wag the finger or judge. It's like, you're, you know, it's like, which is, you know, ironic considering that's what you're doing, wagging a finger and judging, you know? So, but for her, it's like, you know, kind of throwing her little retort back at, you know, Bill, which Bill responds by being like, yeah, I'm not going to do this whole sheriff thing because it's not worth it. Because it's like all she's going to do is she's going to open up all his cases, like any little complaints and stuff like that, she's going to throw back in Bill's face. At the same time, she's going to drag Paula, you know, and Maggie back into this, because Maggie had seen a report and was kind of upset that, like, you know, Carol kind of besmirching Bill's name like that, because also kind of looks bad upon their family. Maggie says she's okay, but Bill's like, I don't know if she is, you know. And so for him, it's like he wants to walk away because he doesn't want them to get dragged into it, especially because obviously even in this episode, Paula was able to get, you know, everyone, you know, the other nurses in that place where she was supposed to, like, cut jobs and stuff like that. Luckily, we never actually found out, like, how she actually got the extra money, but she was able to kind of get everyone to keep their jobs and everything. So now it's a situation of, like, you know, I think this is kind of like her first official days back to work, potentially. Whatever the case may be, like, she tries to do, like, a simple, you know, something like she would just naturally do surgery, like a small surgery. But at that moment, like, the PTSD kicked in. It kind of made her kind of relive that moment. But luckily, she took a deep breath and kind of worked past it. And, you know, in that moment for her, it's like, this was a good sign for her. It's like, granted, yeah, this might flare up again, but at least she now knows I can handle it. I didn't, like, completely freak out. Like, I was able to take a deep breath and, you know, and even, you know, Bill was suggesting that it will kind of circle back around. But for her, it's like, I forgot what example she was using with the whole Bill situation. Basically, if you want to do the job, you need to have a clear head and focus. And even with her job as a surgeon, you know, it's not like an accountant where you can press delete in case something goes wrong. It's kind of you screw up, someone's life is over, you know. So you need a clear focus. So, but the fact is, they've set this out where it seems like Paula is kind of able to kind of deal with it. There might still be some underlying issues. Maybe it's kind of her jumping to it too quickly. Maybe not. Like, you know, but it's something that she says later on. It's like, oh, you remember our second date? Dude grabbed my ass and what happened? It's like, you punched him in the nose. And she's like, right. He's like, because you're a fighter. And she's like, exactly. I wasn't just a fighter. I'm still a fighter. So if Riley wants to kind of bring it, then, you know, we're going to be here. You know, because at the end of the day, Maggie is okay. At the end of the day, you know what I think it is? I think you're scared and you're using Maggie as an excuse. And she's like, that right there, that look in your eyes, that's what I want to see when the fact that someone's kind of challenging you. You want this job, right? Then you go for it. Me and Maggie are going to be right by your side fighting alone to make sure because you've done so much, you know, was it Los Angeles? It's safer and everything. So you're the best man for the job. So you fight tooth and nail to kind of keep the job. So it's interesting how that all kind of ties together like that. So a lot of interesting elements to kind of consider and think about going forward into the next episode, because I'm curious to see where this all ends up taking us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.